Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that sits literally right at the intersection of hope, deep belief, and cold, hard medical evidence. We're talking about the legacy of Dr. Diaa Al-Awadi. You know, behind the revoked medical licenses, the fierce scientific debates, and his 25 unverified theories, there are thousands of real people whose lives were intimately touched by his teachings. So we're going to lay it all out: the evidence, the undeniable testimonials, and the absolute tragedies, so we can figure out exactly what happened here. So let's unpack this massive paradox. On one hand, you've got a guy whose teachings led to what his patients called absolute miracles, recovering from chronic, debilitating pain. But then, flip the coin, and his exact same methodology led to devastating, even fatal tragedies when people just completely abandon life-saving medical care, right? To understand how one single person could be seen as a literal savior to some and a severe public health threat to others, we really have to take an objective look at what he was actually prescribing. First up, we need to define the system at the absolute center of this whole debate, the Al-Tayyibat system. Now, for tens of thousands of followers, this wasn't just some viral internet fad. It was a last resort lifeline for folks who felt completely failed by conventional medicine. Basically, it's an alternative health methodology that relies on super strict dietary restrictions and fasting, promising to cure a huge range of chronic diseases. It built this massive, grassroots online following, creating a powerful narrative of healing that professional medical bodies literally couldn't ignore.
Part 1. Miracles of Al-Tayyibat.
To really get why this took off, we have to look at the authentic success stories. Why did people believe in him with such intense passion? Well, take Mona. She had been suffering from completely disabling chronic migraines for 20 years. 20 years. She tried neurologists, heavy painkillers, Botox, nothing worked. Then she decides to follow Al-Awadi's stomach headache theory. She completely cuts out sugar and dairy. Totally gone. She only ate from a highly restricted list: rice, potatoes, dates, ghee, and red meat. And get this, in just 3 months, her migraines plummeted from 15 a month down to just 2. For Mona, the fact that her neurologist never once asked about her diet was all the proof she needed that modern medicine had a massive blind spot. And we see that exact same sentiment echoed by Hassan, a 55-year-old construction supervisor. The guy was bedridden, literally scheduled for sciatica surgery. But he tries Al-Awadi's Colon-Sciatica theory, which basically claimed a blocked colon was pressing on his nerve. So Hassan fasts, eats only the restricted foods, and within a single month, he's back at the construction site. He actually noted that he still had the herniated disc, but absolutely zero pain. He challenged doctors to explain it. Now, gastroenterologists will tell you that an anti-inflammatory diet just calms a hypersensitive gut nerve axis. It doesn't magically cure herniated disc. But to Hassan, that didn't matter. The real-world relief he felt fueled his absolute unwavering loyalty. The impact definitely went way beyond just pain management, too. Look at Kareem. His HbA1c, which is your key indicator for average blood sugar, dropped from a really dangerous 8.9% all the way down to a perfectly normal 5.7%. This happened after he adopted the system and dropped 22 kilograms. This change was so dramatic that Kareem actually went on YouTube to publicly declare that insulin resistance is a total myth. Now, endocrinologists rightly point out that, hey, any diet causing you to lose a ton of weight is naturally going to improve your insulin sensitivity. But for his followers, the difference between correlation and causation was completely irrelevant. The results were right there in the mirror, and they were life-changing. Part 2. When hope turns deadly. But here's where we take a really dark turn. Because for every viral success story floating around online, there was a quieter, devastating tragedy playing out in the real world. This is exactly what happens when untested dietary advice completely replaces life-saving medicine. The really dangerous escalation started with rhetoric just like this. He said, insulin is a fraud, it does not cure diabetes, it kills the patient slowly. The messaging shifted from just, eat whole foods and try fasting, to aggressively telling patients to throw away their essential, life-sustaining medications. And man, that led to some devastating real-world consequences. Just consider the absolutely heartbreaking case of a 7-year-old boy named Yusuf who had type 1 diabetes. His parents, fully believing Dr. Al-Awadi's videos, stopped giving him his insulin. The timeline here is just terrifyingly fast. Barely 48 hours later, Yusuf was rushed to the ER in diabetic ketoacidosis. That's a severe, life-threatening complication where your body gets flooded with excess blood acids. By day 3, this little boy slipped into a coma, and while he thankfully survived, he was left with lasting neurological damage. It was this specific tragedy that sparked an urgent warning from the Egyptian Ministry of Health and a criminal complaint for endangering public health. And the danger definitely didn't stop at diabetes. It bled right into oncology too. Al-Awadi pushed this oncogenic interstitial environment theory. Basically, he claimed that tumors were just your body's response to a toxic internal environment, and that surgery and chemotherapy were literal poisons. Tragically, a 39-year-old woman named Salma believed this. She refused all conventional treatment for her early-stage breast cancer and relied entirely on his strict diet. The cancer just silently metastasized, spreading right through her body. By the time she finally went back to actual medical doctors, it was tragically too late. This fatal logic breached psychiatry as well. Al-Awadi would openly claim that mental illness is a digestive lie. That exact phrase convinced Ahmed, a 29-year-old guy who had been totally stable on bipolar mood stabilizers for 4 whole years, to just dump his medications in the trash. Within 3 weeks of starting the system and stopping his pills, Ahmed spiraled into an incredibly severe manic episode with psychotic features, which ended up leading to an involuntary hospitalization.
Part 3. Science of the Gray Zone. So what's really fascinating here is that not all patient outcomes fit neatly into boxes of simply healed or harmed. It's a spectrum. If we untangle the genuine benefits from the really fatal exaggerations, we start to see exactly why this diet worked for so many people. Look at his approach to things like IBS and chronic fatigue. He told people to eliminate sugar, industrial seed oils, and additives. Well, that actually inadvertently mirrors proven anti-inflammatory whole foods diets. And his focus on intermittent fasting and drinking lots of bone broth, that closely mimics the low FODMAP diet, which is a clinically proven protocol gastroenterologists use every day to reduce gut fermentation and inflammation. So the symptom relief these folks felt, it was undeniably real. Which brings us to a super interesting perspective from Dr. Ahmed Farag, a consultant gastroenterologist. He says there is a kernel of nutritional wisdom in his system that the medical community overlooked for too long. It's a great point. Dr. Farag is basically pointing out that by aggressively dismissing Al-Awadi's entire system right out of the gate, the medical establishment missed a massive opportunity. They failed to engage with these patients who were desperately seeking out and actually finding real dietary solutions. But the underlying tragedy here is what experts are now calling the lethal bundling effect. See, he took perfectly valid functional medicine concepts, like cutting out highly processed garbage, and bundled them inextricably with those fatal claims we talked about, like insulin is a fraud. The immense, genuine relief that the IBS and migraine patients felt turned them into these highly vocal, super grateful evangelists for his brand. And their very real success stories, unfortunately, gave a huge amount of unearned credibility to his incredibly deadly, unverified advice on things like cancer and diabetes.
Part 4. Doctors Speak Out.
Now, as you'd imagine, opinions inside the medical community are definitely not monolithic here. It's a really complex ethical reality. Dr. Hala Mustafa points out that functional medicine actually agrees with him on the dangers of ultra-processed foods. She warns that his massive following just proves that patients are absolutely starved for proper dietary advice from their actual doctors. But right next to that, you have endocrinologist Dr. Mona El-Shabrai drawing a very hard line. She says that telling parents to stop a child's insulin isn't an alternative theory. It's manslaughter by misinformation.
Part 5. A Complicated Legacy. When Dr. Al-Awadi died suddenly in April 2026, it instantly cemented this highly polarizing legacy. Ahmad, who ran a massive 300,000-member Al-Tayyibat Facebook group, posted this. They killed him, but they cannot kill his message. We will continue until the whole world knows. His sudden death immediately birthed this unbreakable big pharma assassination conspiracy among his loyal base. For thousands of parents who physically watch their kids get better on his diet, honestly, no amount of peer-reviewed pushback is ever going to sway their belief.
So we gotta leave you with this one provocative thought. Are we truly listening to the patients? This whole phenomenon, the blind loyalty, the miraculous recoveries, the absolute devastating tragedies, it really acts as a mirror held right up to modern medicine's failure to communicate and integrate holistic nutrition. It's a stark reminder that every health philosophy has to be measured by its full impact on human lives. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and for more, visit our website, Fair Solution.